It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach Bruce Arians has stepped down after 3 seasons of leading the Bucs and winning Super Bowl 55. Arians not retiring, but moving into a front office role as a senior football consultant with the Buccaneers as defensive coordinator Todd Bowles takes over as head coach. Tennessee women's basketball head coach Kelly Harper has signed a contract extension that'll keep her in Knoxville through the 2026-27 season. Harper led the Lady Vols to their first Sweet 16 appearance since 2016 this season, losing to Louisville last weekend. Speaking of college hoops, the Middle Tennessee Lady Raiders are in the WNIT Final Four, hosting Seton Hall tonight at the Murphy Center for a spot in the championship. Tip-off from the Glass House in Murfreesboro is at 6:30. And the men's NIT championship is tonight. Texas A&M and Xavier going head-to-head from Madison Square Garden. That is a 6 p.m. tip-off. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Happy Thursday to you. We were having a discussion about printer ink in the break. Our old buddy JT said he figured out the ink was more expensive than a cheap printer, so they would just buy a printer and use it until it ran out of ink and throw away the printer. Or just give it away or whatever. Anyway, I don't know how you're dealing with ink, but happy Thursday to you. Did you guys see this? It's a couple of days ago, and I've had it in my notes. Chad Forbes, who's NFL Draft Bites on Twitter, I think he's been on with us before.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. He's worked for a bunch of different organizations. I think he's just kind of his own entity now. And some people like what he puts out and some people don't. But it was after this weekend, basically he said, okay, if the Titans did trade A.J. Brown, what could they get for him? Did you see this? What could they get for him?
I'm assuming like a second and a third.
He said... He
I
said,
have no idea, though.
Titans, what could they ask for in an A.J. Brown trade? They would trade with the Jets. He said they would get pick number 10 in the first round. They would trade a first rounder and a third rounder.
This is with somebody as a partner. I thought you meant if they trade them in general. You said pick number 10.
If they traded them to the Jets. The Jets had pick number 10, and then in the third round, they had pick number 69. So he said a first and a third rounder would sound fair to him. So he said if you did that, you could get you could draft a replacement quarterback at number 10. I don't know if you get the second quarterback or the third quarterback. It depends on how that goes. But he said, and then at number 69, maybe you take a wide receiver, or maybe you take one of the best wide receivers at number 10. So I thought, okay, a first rounder and a third rounder, pick 10 and 69. And again, this is just, none of us really think he's going anywhere, but this was an interesting exercise. So I thought, what did the Chiefs get? Well, remember, that was 5 people. They got 5 people for Tyreek Hill, 5 draft picks, which would turn into people. They got a first rounder, a second rounder, and a fourth rounder this year. They got a fourth rounder and a sixth rounder for next year, all those. And I thought, okay, what did they get for Devontae Adams? What did the Packers get? They got a first and second round pick for Devontae Adams. Got a first and a second round pick this year. So for AJ, he was saying he thought a first and a third would do it. First and a third.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised.
Lucas, that sound about right to you? I know you're editing right now.
I said off the cuff, second and third. So
you just said that straight off the cuff.
Yeah,
Oh, he's answering the phone now. Little bit less than Devontae Adams. The Chiefs absolutely just robbed Miami for what they got, I think.
Well, because they had a lot of picks because of the previous years of the trades and everything else. So they kind of had, I'm not going to call them throwaway picks, but they had more collateral draft picks to use to get them. But, hey, and then the Raiders basically didn't have as much, and so the Packers took what they could. I think the Packers were worried about, it's different situations. All of them are their own isolated ones. Devontae Adams, I thought, was going to hold out if they franchise tagged him.
Mm-hmm.
So that was going to happen, and I think that was clear. So either you're going to give me the money I want, which was in his mind $30 million, or somewhere there close to that. That's what he was going to say. You get 30, you get 28. You reach for 30, you get 28.
Right.
You can't come close to that, then you need to let me walk and get rid of me and and see where you guys can get some collateral for, because it's going to be a big headache and a problem in training camp and gone all the way through. And then here with Tariq, I think once he saw that deal, he's like, oh, man, it's time for me to get paid. And they probably were already starting those negotiations, having conversations. The number just kept getting higher and higher and higher. And I think Andy Reid says, well, you know what? We can get some more draft picks, and we can get some more players to replace him and beat, teams by committee instead of just really one elite guy. And that's kind of been his philosophy really throughout until he got Tariq Hill, with it was bargain basement price, because of the issues coming out of college. So,
yep.
Hey, they won. And I think we're going to start seeing this a little bit more with the receivers, the elite receivers, because if they can't get money, it's going to be an issue because now the market has been set. I mean, when Christian Kirk gets almost $20 million, he didn't even have, 1,000 yards receiving. You go, whoa, wait a minute now. Everybody's looking around. There's a receiver going, whoa, wait a minute now. So Jacksonville kind of screwed everything up.
Oh, they ruined the market.
Yeah, so that there's, and that's why some receivers are always talking about giving the ball, because stats do matter. And that's why they get so upset, because then they leverage it against them when it's time to get a contract. I don't know if A.J. Brown's that type of guy. I don't know who his agent is, or is he his own agent? But
he is. Didn't Joel Corey tell us he has the same agent of all the other receivers who are about to get paid? Right? He said he has the same one as Debo and DK. They all have the same.
Yeah, Debo and DK.
He just started listing all the dudes.
And I was like,
whoa.
And there's a lot of rumors right now, just like that DK Metcalf may get traded.
Yep.
It's funny. All these guys are under the same guy, agent. So
that's where those rumors come from.
Yeah, I would say so. So it's not a coincidence. So I'm interested to see which one gets to the party first. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. I don't think the Titans are in the market, but we don't know that behind the scenes what he's looking for and what he would want. I think what Joe Corey tells us contract for A.J. Brown would be around like 22. It was 22. I think 22. Was it 22 or somewhere?
Lucas, I know we've got that. The Joel Corey audio talking about what he thought A.J. Brown was worth, and he was basically looking at what other wide receivers had gotten, like you said, and he
was chuckling because he was like, this is going to be interesting.
This is what Joel Corey, former NFL agent, told us. Was on with us last week. We asked him about A.J.'s value, especially based on what Cheetah and what Devontae Adams had just gotten. This is what he said.
Well, first, he's already in very good hands with Torrey Dandy. And Torrey Dandy is going to control the wide receiver market because Torrey Dandy represents Mike Williams, who signed for $20 million per year, Chris Godwin, who signed for $20 million per year. He represents DK Metcalf, who was drafted in the same round as A.J. Brown, and Deebo Samuel, who was drafted in the same round as D.J. Brown. So you're not getting A.J. Brown for less than $20 million per year. I would be trying to target $25 million per year and probably settle at $22.5 million per year. I'd want to do a 3-year extension because I'm young and I'm going to want to get another bite of the apple as a wide receiver. I don't see any circumstance where you're signing A.J. Brown for less than $20 million per year, given that same agent has gotten 2 deals done for wide receivers this year, $20 million per year.
So there you go. Ask for 25, try to land at 22.5, and know that you won't take any penny less than 20 million because that's what everybody's getting. That's the floor now. That is the floor. That's the floor. 20 million. How much does it worry you that he missed 4 games last year? That he had his knees cleaned out before last year? He missed 2 games. He missed 2 games in 2020. He missed 4 last year, 4 of 17.
For me, I don't know the extent of the scopes.
Yep.
I know that was, all off season. So, and then it kind of slow played it into the training camp. So I don't know the extent of those scopes, but he seemed fairly healthy. But that does lead into, training and everything else. The injury, he got hit by King. It really kind of did something to his ribs or something.
Yep.
King brought the hammer there for the Texans, who used to be with the Titans and the Chargers.
Desmond.
Yeah. For me, not so much. Really. No. He's young. Now, if he was older, I would probably, 28, 9. but I think we'll get our money's worth because he's the guy that wants to live up to the billing, and he's going to be shooting for another contract. So it's not as big as most people think for me. No, it is, the way he's built and everything else, when you typically get in a scope, a lot of these guys probably need scopes when they came out of college. I mean, so it was some wear and tear, and then now you get in the league, all of a sudden it kind of flares up. So I don't know the extent of those scopes, but just the word scope is not making me get nervous by any means. It could be just a cleanup, and he had some bone spurs or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if he had a torn lateral meniscus. So I don't think they'll let him do like what I did, get a torn lateral meniscus surgery and play, get the meniscus surgery on Monday, then play on Sunday.
It's just like, sure, Blake, come on back.
Yeah,
it was a mess that season, right? That was the knee that kept blowing up that you'd watch practice in a chair and get your knee drained.
Yeah, I just watched practice in a chair in the end zone. Yeah, it'd take all week for it to settle back down and wearing a sleeve and doing all the exercises and then repeat.
Do you just go to him right now if you're J-Rob and go 3 for 60, however you want it to look like on the front end? Guarantee you some on 3 for 60.
Well, I've been advocating that I would be already started my negotiations, but there's a lot of things in order right now that you're going to wait till the draft, you're going to wait till free agency is over, and maybe, as you said, that time right before training camp, that month before, where
July.
I would probably really hone in on that, and then once camp starts, maybe 3 weeks in, the deal is done. That's probably what I would think. And I would be really doing the same thing with Simmons. That's me personally. So, yeah, I think these guys have potential superstar written all over them. And those don't come easy in the National Football League. There's a whole bunch of really good players. You can say, hey, you're reaching a little bit. A.J. Brown has some injury issues. He may be just a Pro Bowl type player and not a superstar type player, but I would feel on this team, he is a superstar.
And Big Jeff, at the very least, they have to pick up his option this year. He just finished year 3, so they pick up your 5th-year option before your 4th year. That buys them some time, but it seems like by the time Aaron Donald's deal comes out, then there's going to be a new floor for, what those guys can make. So it'll be interesting how quickly they try to get Big Jeff done, too.
I'm going to just say this is why I would have been ahead of the curve. The longer the Titans wait, the worse it's going to start looking. And when I say that, I'm talking about for them to get a deal done, because all of a sudden the market number is just going to continually to increase. Is it for Jeff? Oh, Aaron Donald just signed for some blistering $30 million a year. And you go, oh, man. And then his agents go, well, he's younger, and the sky's the limit.
Yep.
He's not too far away in year 4.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be that guy.
Yeah, and maybe some better. I mean, it's hard to say that, but potentially. Now, we're talking about potential,
right?
But he definitely has it. That doesn't mean he's going to reach it all, but every year we've seen him incrementally get better. I mean, and he's reaching his potential, and that's why, a lot of people were saying he was a top 5 pick.
Yeah, he's 24 right now. He'll be 25 this season.
Young
25.
Yeah, that to me is a no-brainer. But, I mean, and you may pay more up front, but you're going to win on the back end. And he's going to have some loyalty to you, not only for drafting him, but also getting the deal done early. That's how it works. But you continue to wait, then wait till after this season, and then all of a sudden, man, that number's going to look blistering.
Yeah, Aaron Donald's number is going to be absolutely ridiculous. Alan Bell's set to join us next. We'll talk some numbers with him, betting numbers, all kinds of things. Maybe he wants to weigh in on some of these trade talks or anything like that. Alan Bell from CBS Sportsline next, right here on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. Every time I hear this song now, all I can think about is the Santa Claus, because in that movie, he's like walking down the hallway and this song comes on and they kind of dance. Do you know what I'm talking about, or does that sound crazy? Santa Claus, remember this?
Like Tim Allen?
Yes, the Tim Allen Santa Claus.
I don't remember this song being in there.
Okay, Alan Bell joins us now. Alan, you stay up late. I see you tweeting. Do you watch the Santa Claus? You know what I'm talking about with the with that scene with the ZZ Top song?
Oh yeah, hey, once a week, man. I don't miss the Santa Claus. I know what you're talking about. I know the scene. Like that's a good movie, and yeah, you're right.
And then do you remember though? Like they sequeled it 13 years later, and then just for kicks, they made one straight to video just because they thought we could make a little more money with this thing. They kind of exploited it later, but like the kid was all grown up. It was just kind of nuts. Like who didn't think 2 years into that we should probably sequel this now?
I know, right? Like I'm waiting for the Home Alone to where it's just like the kid has a job and just a normal life. It doesn't get lost. You know what I mean? Like I'm with you.
Well, Alan Bell, he's always with us. The Arians move. A, were you surprised by this? B, curious to get your thoughts. And C, does it move the needle in any way for the Bucs, the coaching change?
Well, so, okay, first off, I did not expect that, right? Like, it's so strange. Like, what has gone on with the Bucs in the last month? You know what I mean? Like, getting Tom Brady back, and then Arians, steps aside, which is a great move. I mean, he went right down the checklist of get Tom Brady, win a Super Bowl, get Tom Brady again, move out of the way to let your friend get the job, and you slide in the front office. Like, all awesome moves there. But it's like, did Brady know about this? He had to know, right? Like, it hasn't moved the number only because Tom Brady coming back. They were about, if you ranked teams in terms of like futures bets to win the Super Bowl next year, the Bucs were about 15, and when Tom Brady came back, they went to about 8. So people had already put in their money, so it's not like they were going to double down. But yeah, like it's just strange. Like who saw this coming? It's crazy.
How much did the Tom Brady news coming back affect like their win total, do you think?
About 2 games, roughly. Okay. I mean, it definitely has an effect, and only because you just kind of wondered like what would it look like without Tom, right? Like he's so valuable in terms of not only what he can do in terms of just his play, but that's why you can make a move like this with the head coach, because Brady's essentially a second head coach that's on the field, right? So, him being there, just his presence, absolutely had an effect on an already pretty good team.
Yeah. Alan Bell joining us. He's on a pretty good team. CBS Sportsline. He is at Alan Bell 247 on Twitter if you want to follow him there, and you do.
Well, Alan, you're on the sports line, so tell us, where will Jimmy G and Baker end up? I know you know because you guys are right 99% of the time.
Man, I'll tell you what, I wish I did know, right? So, first off, with Jimmy G, the hard part is this, is look, not many teams in the NFL need a quarterback, at least a starter, right? Mm-hmm. So, you kind of look around and okay, Jimmy G, I thought the Colts were the perfect place for him, right? And Matt Ryan's a great fit for them too. He fits exactly what they want to do. But I kind of thought the Colts was the good spot. Now, I wonder if San Francisco doesn't just keep him. Like they're not afraid. Shanahan's not afraid, to use 2 quarterbacks. Shoot, he wanted to do it last year, right? But injuries kind of precluded that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he stays there. Now Baker, you have to move him. This is like getting a divorce and you're still living in the house together a year later. You can't sell the house, right? Like you just don't have any other options. Like they have to get rid of him, but he's kind of out of spots. Like it's pretty much Seattle, because Carolina said that they don't really want Baker to trade for him. So unless it's Seattle, he's getting traded to be a number 2, which is crazy.
So you think a trade to be number 2? Really?
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, I think somebody would, because it would be something to where, like, a John Robinson type move of, when he got Tannehill. And I'm not saying those two are on the same plane. I'm just saying, I could see it to where a team is saying, look, man, like, you're going to have to eat a lot of this. You have no other options. Like, we have all the leverage here. You're going to have to eat salary. We're not sending you any draft picks that are worth anything, right? So I could see that. But they might just I don't know what they do, but they can't keep him. Like that relationship is done.
No doubt about it. Well, What relationship is done is the overtime rule in the playoffs. Thanks a lot there, Buffalo. But what did you think about the overtime rule?
Yeah, I don't have a strong stance, for or against. But I like it, right? Like, let both teams have the ball. I'm certainly for it. We saw all the numbers in terms of historicals of the team that wins the coin toss, wins the game like 78% of the time, right? So, if we could, kind of even that number out, cool. I'm all for it. But, yeah, man, I get it. I think it's better for the game, but we'll see, right? Like, there's probably something that we're not thinking about, and the first time we see it, like, some team somehow is going to get just massively just kind of screwed over it. I don't know how it will be, but somebody will, and we'll be looking to change it again.
Well, let's just look at the AFC South there, Alan, and that is who is favored to win and make the playoffs?
Okay, so if you look at, different books, right, like some will have the Colts as the favorite and the Titans like 1A and 1B, where other books will have the Titans clearly a 1 and the Colts at 2. And I think that, not to be, homeristic here in Nashville, but I think that's the way to do it because I think the Titans are still a much better team than the Indianapolis Colts are. The interesting thing is this, is I've kind of watched what the Colts have done the last year, 2 years or so. I don't know if they're trying to beat the Titans as opposed to trying to be the Titans, right? Like they're forming their team exactly like Tennessee. Yep. A lead back offense, a quarterback that thrives in play action, and a playmaker on defense that causes turnovers and tries to keep, your offense off the field, right? Like they're literally becoming like the junior Titans. It's fascinating to watch. And now they need wide receivers. Like it's so fascinating how these two teams, mirror each other in terms of their roster.
Well, that mirror is not the same from Jim Irsay's eyes because he is pissed off and said, we need to beat the Titans, man. What do you think about how he came out and just really lampooned Carson Wentz, man, after he's gone, man? Wow.
It's fascinating, right? Like, and Blaine, you know this better than anybody, man. Like, your quarterback's got to be a locker room guy, right? And now we've seen twice. Like, it ended bad in Philly. It ended bad in Indy. Like, there's something with it. And, like, Ron Rivera in Washington, Ron Rivera is one of the most stand-up individuals that there is, right? Like, I don't know how him and Carson are going to get along because they seem like two completely different people in terms of how they want to go about it. Not to mention, his play isn't that great either. Like, you can get away with that stuff when you're Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers. It's tough to do it when you're Wentz, right? So the crazy part is they're paying him $28 million. It's just insanity to me, man. But, yeah, Irsay, I thought it was funny, man. He was like, nah, we're good. Like, we're just moving on. Like, I just need him out of here. And Matt Ryan's certainly a much better, option than Wentz is.
Oh, well, one more. Since we're talking about owners and at the Breakers there, I've been there. It's pretty nice, man. But they had boats there attached, I'm sure. But, man, Kraft, it seems like he's like, hey, man, I'm not going to cry down a river, but we've lost 3 seasons in a row, the playoff games. Is Big Bill going to be in trouble a little bit if that doesn't change?
Oh. Yeah. That's a great question, right? Like, what do you do if it just keeps going south, right? It's so fascinating that we've already seen, like, the Brady part gone from that situation. And then now it's kind of like, like we always waited for, like, Josh McDaniels to what he was going to do. Like, it seems like Belichick is like, all right, I'm just going to wait out Kraft. And this is just my organization now, So I don't know what they do, but imagine Bill Belichick being let go. Like, I would love to see odds and bets on how long that he was unemployed because I'm putting the over-under at about 8 minutes.
Right, yeah, and the reason why I asked that because Kraft went into a little bit and says, well, maybe his unorthodox style sometimes, and I think he was referring to not naming coaches, maybe that no longer exists. I mean, he didn't say it like that. I'm paraphrasing, but it made me think like, man, he sure is going in deep here on Bill. And, I mean, this is the greatest coach of all time. Not to say it can't end, but why do that now?
Yeah, agreed. Like, there's times where, like you brought up Jim Irsay, right? There's times when, an owner is asked a question and should speak honestly. And I thought, Irsay did that correctly. There's other times where you just don't need to say anything. It's not helping any situation whatsoever, right? And yeah, like Kraft, like I like him as an owner. Like he seems like a fun guy, but hey, man, like this ain't helping anybody, man, my man. Like especially when we're trying to get free agents out here. Like you're not helping the situation. Like need you to just kind of be an owner and cut the checks. Let me handle the rest of it.
No doubt about it. We're on with Alan Bell with CBSSportsLine.com.
So let's say that somebody came to you and they said, hey, man, we know you're based out of Nashville. Set odds that Ryan Tannehill takes the first snap at quarterback for the Titans in 2023. How would you set
Great
that?
question. Yep, I would set it at minus 250, right? Like I don't think that the Titans like Ryan Tannehill's going to be their quarterback, right? Like unless they make some massive trade move, which I don't think that that they will. Like they like Ryan Tannehill. And they should. Ryan Tannehill's a good quarterback, right? Yes, there some things, in the playoffs that we saw that, weren't great, but Ryan Tannehill's a good quarterback. And, we don't have like any eyesight of what they're doing in terms of drafting a young guy behind him, right? Like unless they do it this year in the first round, which I do not think that they're going to do, then you're just kind of cutting your odds there, right? Like there's just not a ton of options. So, yeah, I would put it minus 250. Like, Tannehill will be here. Like, the next 2 years, yeah, I would have no doubts that he's a starting quarterback.
What's your over-under on first-round quarterbacks? Because I think for some people it's just as simple as 3, but I've seen mock drafts with 4. I think I saw one with 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round.
You know what? I'm going to put the number at 3.5, right? If I were a book, I'd put it at 3.5. But for me, I would bet way on the under. I think it's closer to 2 than it is to 4. And again, like just look at the supply and demand, right? There's just not a lot of teams that need a starting quarterback. Now, there are a lot of teams that need a number 2, but are you going to invest a first-round pick in that, right? Like, I think a lot of teams saw Green Bay and what they did with Jordan Love, and it's like, man, like if you hit on a guy like Justin Herbert, great. It's awesome. But if you don't hit on that, like that could get everyone fired. You know what I mean? So, yeah, like I'm going to put 3.5's the number, but I would bet the under on that. But there will be some teams that make smart moves, in the second round that get a guy that probably should have been a first.
There you go, Alan Bell. Alan Bell 24/7 on Twitter, CBS Sports Line.
Well, Alan, I didn't know if you guys do odds on like who goes at what pick in the first round, and maybe I do it for other rounds, and maybe you don't do it at all. But I was trying to figure out what are the odds at the Titans? What are they going to take at 26, man? Because I think it's a tough job to kind of figure out, not knowing how the flow of the draft actually goes.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like we'll have that for sure. It'll be closer, around kind of mid-April. But right now, you could put it at position, right? So, and again, you look at the Titans. Even that was difficult, right? Because they're a good, solid team, depth-wise, right? Like they could go kind of any direction here. They could go with a tight end, and it wouldn't surprise anybody necessarily. They could go with, a linebacker, whoever, right? Like they could trade the pick away, right? Like none of it would surprise anybody because they have options. And quite frankly, as an NFL team, like that's exactly where you want to be. So you don't get, kind of hogtied into having to go one position. You just take the best player available. So that's what makes the odds so tough. But as a fan, that's exactly where you want to be.
So do you have the odds out now of who is going to the Super Bowl from the NFC and the AFC?
Well, I'll tell you this. Like if you look, kind of at the futures odds, the AFC, again, the odds are going to come down to the Chiefs and the Bills. Like those are going to be your favorites. In the NFC, the Rams are up there. Depends on the book that you look at. The Rams are up there. They're a top 2, top 3. But quite frankly, the 49ers have better odds than they do, right? Like Vegas believes in the 49ers. And then the Packers are going to be there with the Bucks as well. So it's difficult, but I'll tell you this, like for anybody out there, like if you ever want to use the book's numbers against them, now's the time to do it to where the Chiefs, say they're your favorite at plus 700 right now. That means that you could take 6 teams, put $10 each, equal amount on 6 teams. So now you have 6, and if any of those 6 win, you automatically profit. So if you ever want to use the book's numbers against them, yeah, now's the time to do that.
Ooh, wow. Good stuff there. We're on with Alan Bell with CBS Sports. I guess one more for me, and that is Lamar Jackson. Will he get a new deal done? I saw Harbaugh got an extension, so I'm assuming that maybe Lamar Jackson is next, or is that wrong thinking?
No, I think he is, right? The question is the number, and it goes to show. Look, the same questions that we all ask, the Ravens do too. Now, don't get me wrong, they love Lamar, right? Like, as a guy, he's everything you want. Great guy, great face of the of the franchise, everything. But there are questions in regards to his play, notably in the passing game, right? So I think that they'll get an extension, but is he going to get that fully guaranteed, Deshaun Watson style, which is crazy that Deshaun Watson's the guy that's getting, the fully guaranteed deal. I don't know, man. Like, that's going to be hard. And I think Lamar, I think that he'll kind of keep the franchise in mind as well. Might take a little bit less. But, yeah, that's tough. So, yeah, he'll get the extension. What the number is going to be and what the guaranteed number, your guess is as good as mine, because I don't think that the Ravens know right now.
Oh, my. Your guess is as good as mine. Well, guess this. Will DK Metcalf get traded?
Whoa.
Man, I would love to see it, right? Like, I was saying on Twitter, like, as soon as the Seahawks traded, Russell Wilson, I was like, man, if I were a GM, while they're in that trade mood right now, like, I'd just give him a call and see what it would take, right? He's certainly – from a numbers perspective, more easily tradable than, say, a Tyler Lockett. But, it just all depends. And that's another fascinating part, too, with Seattle, is that they're in a rebuild mode now with the oldest head coach in the league. It's fascinating, like, where they're at. I don't know where their head's at all, especially at the quarterback position, right? So, yeah, man, like, I would at least call. But the tough part is that he's in the affordable mode right now, so they don't really have to trade him. They'd probably rather do Lockett, but that one gets a little more expensive.
Man, okay. I just wanted to know if you were going to have your machine shooting out those dollars, man.
I wish.
Great follow, man.
I'll tell you this. Hey, let me say this. We don't have computers strong enough to get in Pete Carroll's head, all right? And we try, but it's tough. Like, you don't ever know what that guy's going to do.
Alan Bell, our guest. Any Final Four nuggets, AB?
Yep, got a couple for you here. So
I know you do.
Since the Sweet 16, unders are 11-1. First half unders are 11-1.
Oh.
And since 1998, a team that won its Elite Eight game by 20-plus points, North Carolina, undefeated in their Final Four game. Perfect 5-0, right? But it's going against Duke. Here's my question, and I ask this to you, ask this to the audience. All right, so let's just say Kansas gets past Villanova in the national championship game. Mm-hmm. Duke and North Carolina, that's kind of their title game. Like, it's difficult to get that up for that game and then turn around 2 days later and do it again, right? So, watch that game, see how physical it is, see how much they beat each other up. And if you like the other side, jump on that other side immediately, because that number will shoot through the moon.
So, all right. So, who wins?
So you got Kansas winning it.
Yeah. So, how do you break it down? Who wins Saturday? Who wins it all?
Yeah. So I'm going to say Kansas covers the 4 against Villanova. It's just tough with Justin Moore out, their second best player.
Yeah.
As for Duke, North Carolina, I'm going to take Duke. I'll eat chalk on that one as well. I think that they're a better overall team than North Carolina. And then we'll have Kansas, Duke in the national championship. And I'll take Kansas just because they're a much better team than Duke. Not much better, but they're built for this. They're deep, and however you want to run, they'll run. And look at their second half defenses.
Ooh,
Teams aren't scoring above 20 points in the second half against Kansas. Like, they go lockdown defense on you. So, yeah, I'll take Kansas to win it all.
Great minds think alike, for what that's worth.
There we go.
Well, it wasn't that long ago. Kansas was in the crosshairs of that FBI thing, and here they are with a chance to play for a title.
No kidding, right? Like, that's how crazy that this sport is.
Oh, gosh, there's nothing crazier than college basketball. AB, great stuff, man. CBS Sportsline at Alan Bell 247. Follow him, not just for, like, betting stuff, but just for general Twitter awesomeness. He's got a great account. Thanks, AB. We'll catch up again soon.
Very entertaining.
I appreciate you guys. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, AB is the best. All right, we put out a poll yesterday. We asked the question about which position would you draft in the first round. Got a bunch of responses. Quarterback was one of the answers, and I'll be honest, I was really surprised at the number after quarterback. We'll share that next. Blaine and Mickey.
What?
Yeah, surprising. on Twitter. I was interested just because there's been so much talk about the Titans potentially and Desmond Ridder. By the fact that Vrabel was at his pro day. Now, Vrabel and his coach are good friends. His college coach was Vrabel's best man at his wedding, apparently. That news came out. But a lot of talk about that. Albert Breer had mentioned a possibility, something to look out for, maybe the Titans and Desmond Ridder. Regardless, whoever it might be, we put this poll question out yesterday on Blaine and Mickey. What position should the Titans take in round 1 of the draft? Now, here's the thing. I put this thing on there. Blaine is our director of content. I did this completely independent of the director of content. But I put quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line. Now watch him draft a defensive lineman or a cornerback or, you know.
I'm with you, though. I'm with you. I'm on it. Yeah.
But wide
receiver. I want him to be a receiver, but I think he's going to be guard.
I feel like if that dude from Boston College is going to be there, they're going to draft him. Mm-hmm. I keep wanting to call him Zion Williamson, but we know that's not who he is, Zion Johnson. So what position – do what?
I wish it was. He's the most talented offensive lineman. All we got to do is make him a killer. Then everything else is there. He'd be the most athletic guard ever.
He would be. What position should the Titans take in round 1 of the draft? We asked quarterback, receiver, offensive line, or other list below. 3.9% did say other, but did not list below. And that's probably just the person who's like, it's J-Rob. We never know what he's going to do. I'm just going to click the other box. So wide receiver was number 1 by a mile, 47.4%. They're not going to draft a wide receiver. They're not going to do it, Blaine. I put it on there.
That's why I put my bold prediction yesterday as wide receiver.
That would be bold, though.
They never drafted what I thought position-wise.
Never.
They've never have.
They're looking for best value. So now you did say this yesterday, and I agree with you. If that kid from Alabama with the blown out knee is available, they're taking that dude.
Oh yeah,
Jamison Williams.
You can't let that go.
So if he's there,
I saw him doing some B skips and A skips the other day. People run track. You know, he was just doing some little hopping and everything. I mean, I think it's like 2 months after surgery. Like he's already up and moving around like that.
It's still March. He did that in January.
Hey man,
it's still March.
I was like, whoa. That was fast.
Well, some people just aren't human, and that dude may be one of those people. 36.9% said O-line. They're like me. They're just resigned to seeing that happen. That was second place. Quarterback was 11.8%. Honestly, I thought it would be much higher. When I put that on there, I thought this is going to be like a third probably say quarterback, and they didn't. Do you think it's because of who they think would be available at 26? Or do you think it's all of these quarterbacks? Like nobody turns the light on for anybody.
Well, I mean, if they're doing their GM hat, they're probably saying, "I don't think any of those guys are going to help us win now, and they're better than Tannehill, at least at this point." So I think that's probably why. Yeah, but you got to still build for the future. So it'd be interesting to see what John Roberts and Vrabel think about that, because they really have no options after this season. If they decide to go in a different direction, now they can make a trade and do kind of what they did with Tannehill, and they could even sign a veteran guy. They could even, if Baker Mayfield gets cut, what if you bring him in as a backup? You know, you never know what could happen there, and he can grow and actually learn how to, lead and kind of stay in your lane and not be emotional on, social media, and just kind of hold the fort within the locker room instead of, verbally going out on social media. So, there's a lot of options, but right now unless you're going to go with Logan Woodside. And for whatever reason, obviously they like him a lot because he's surviving.
Oh, I call him Twinkies after nuclear holocaust, because they always said that Twinkies could survive anything. And they brought in, people who had been decent drafted. They brought in a bunch of dudes. He's beat up Deshaun Kaiser.
That's what I could think of. Yeah, Kaiser. I just knew Kaiser because I knew he had a big arm.
Yep.
Athletic. I said, okay, he learns the system. He should be an option. And, man, he wasn't around here but a month or something.
Remember, even like Matt Barkley last year, and I was like, okay, this is a crafty vet. He's been around. I mean, he's an eyes and ears guy. He's played so long. Like, Tannehill could come over and go, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Maybe Logan Woodside does that. But Matt Barkley, as long as he's been in the league.
He's done it.
He's done it. He's played games. He played against the Titans. And I thought, Matt Barkley's going to be nope, he got shipped off but before the year ended.
I wasn't a big Matt Barkley guy because I just don't think he has the big arm. But he's, for whatever reason, is a great backup. And that's what they were bringing him in for. And so, to the note, I mean, they thought Woodside was better. I mean, it's really remarkable how many people he's taken down. So we got to give him his credit and say, hey, maybe they do believe in him enough that he can be the guy. Has he played in a regular season game yet?
He's knelt down.
Woodside.
Logan Woodside has knelt down in some games.
That does not count.
He has one completed pass on a fake
punt. That's right. Wasn't it to Brett Kern? And
that was a good play.
Was that the play that Brett Kern got blown up by Devin White against the Bucs?
That was where they made Brett run the ball.
Right, okay.
He threw the ball to maybe NWI. He threw it to somebody.
Right. That's it, yeah. He does not have a single career drop back pass in the NFL on a regular play.
That dude must be the greatest practicer of all time. I would love to. I mean, I haven't been to practice in a while. It's during our show, whatever. That dude must be like, dang, Johnny Unitas out there in practice. Because they're just like, hey, man, we're going to roll with you again. We're going to run it back.
I don't even know how to respond because I'm pulling for him, but I still want to see him in an actual real live game. And that for me to really have a true assessment, because guess what? What you just said just alarmed me. He must be a great practice player. Well, some guy that's nothing like a real game.
But it also speaks to Tannehill's health and availability too.
Right,
They never needed it.
It does.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Hats off to him. I mean, knock on wood, don't get bad luck, but yeah, Tannehill's been out and taking some shots, by the way. So he's a tough, you know what.
He is.
So they obviously feel comfortable with him as the backup because he is. I survived.
Do you think it's because of Tannehill's durability? Like, hey, man, let's spend nothing on a backup quarterback spot. Tannehill doesn't miss time. Tannehill is like Superman out there. Let's just save money.
I really don't understand, like, why don't we critique the quarterback? This is just a broader question. Just like the other positions as far as injury to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody's watching, but they're getting hit after they let the ball go. So they're getting hit much more than people think. So why do people just think quarterbacks, not in Tannehill's case, but I would be a little nervous that he will miss a game. He will miss parts of games because how many shots he's taken and because we didn't have a line that was banged up half the time or weren't great pass rushers consistently up and down.
Yeah.
So I would be preparing for that. And I would want someone who's taking some snaps in a regular season game. I've never heard of, across my time watching the Tennessee Titans, a guy that was the backup that had never played any downs in the National Football League. So this guy, to your point, must be fantabulous at practice. A whole nother level.
I'm telling you, man, he's like Dan Marino out there.
Yeah, he must be.
It's a scout team. Just throwing darts.
Well, he must be eating up the defense, too, because he's got to be running some of those reps on scout team. Yeah. That's the only way he can get better. And that's when they start saying, hey, man, you see him throw that deep comeback? Man, that was on the money. He's on a scout team. Because he can't be getting too many reps on offense when Tannehill's not even missing practices.
No.
So it's not like a McNair deal and we see him at practice running the ones.
No.
Tannehill is running most of the reps.
He doesn't miss anything, that guy. And we're knocking on wood before anybody says we're doing anything here. We should. All right. Yeah, 11.8% of you say quarterback. That's it. That was a surprising number to me. Hour number 2 of the show coming up. Doug Matthews, Doug E. Fresh in about 25 minutes with the latest on what's going on in Tennessee and more headlines. When we come back, it's Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
It is 2:02. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach Bruce Arians has stepped down after 3 seasons of leading the Bucs and winning Super Bowl 55. Arians is not retiring, but will move into a front office role as a senior football consultant with the Buccaneers as its defensive coordinator Todd Bowles stepping in as head coach. Tennessee women's basketball head coach Kelly Harper has signed a contract extension through the 2026-27 season. Harper led the Lady Vols to their first Sweet 16 appearance since 2016 this year. And also in college hoops, the Middle Tennessee Lady Raiders are in the WNIT Final Four and hosting Seton Hall tonight at the Murphy Center for a spot in the NIT Championship. Tip-off from Murfreesboro is at 6:30. The men's NIT Championship is tonight. Texas A&M and Xavier go head-to-head from Madison Square Garden, a 6 p.m. tip-off. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Happy Thursday to you. Alan Bell joined us earlier. You can, anytime you want to, you can jump on the Zone's podcast page or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Catch our show, catch all of your favorite shows and programs right here from 104.5 The Zone. We are brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Got another hour on the show. Doug Matthews coming up in, about 20 minutes. Now we'll get the latest on spring practice and recruiting and more from Doug. On the other side of the break, we were talking about potential Titans draft positions. We got into that some with Alan Bell. And then we started to discuss it some because we put out a poll on Blaine and Mickey about what position do you think they should take first. We got to talking about the quarterbacks because less than 12% of you, it was O-line, wide receiver, quarterback. Quarterback was third on the list. And Vols So Hard on Twitter said how much of the perception of this group of quarterbacks is because of the program they're coming from. If they went to OU or Bama or Ohio State, et cetera, would the perception be different? Said, I understand there's not a Trevor Lawrence, but I would take almost any of these guys over, he says, ZW. I think he meant LW, Logan Woodside. Well, you wouldn't be drafting these guys to be a backup. You'd be drafting these guys to start after this year. But it is interesting. Maybe that does have some of the perception is a guy from Liberty, a guy from Cincinnati, a guy from Pittsburgh, not the biggest of name brands.
Yeah, well, for me, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Actually, the MAC conference and maybe even the Sun Belt have created a whole bunch of, pro-style quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger. We can go down the list. Byron Leftwich. We can just keep going and going and going. So it's just that. I just want an experienced quarterback behind my starter, at least has some reps. We're talking about basically 0 reps as a starter. That is because you really don't know what you will see. You can anticipate since he's played well in preseason, but you still don't know. So obviously they feel really comfortable, and he has gotten better every year, even in the preseason, for what it's worth. But we all know, as I've said numerous times, preseason is one level, and then regular season is a level, and then playoffs is another level. So can he rise to the occasion at each level? And thus far, he has. He hasn't gotten an opportunity. So you can't always think, they've gone the route of having a veteran, and it didn't work out either. I think Blaine Gabbert might have been or Fitzpatrick, maybe. Fitzpatrick, I would call him. He would look great, 3 games and bad in another game or 2. So, no, I don't get caught in the name game. I'm not real big on that. Because there's great players that come from all different kind of schools. So you can't say that. I'm not that way anyway. Maybe some of the listeners or the people who tweeted or on the chat line and everything else. But I'm all about that performance and what they see. And obviously that's why I keep going back to they are comfortable with Logan Woodside. They even re-signed him to a 1-year, I guess, extension or whatever, restricted, contract. So, yeah. So it's kind of interesting because I'm always cheering for a guy like that, but I haven't seen him in a regular season game. Maybe that's a good thing, but man, I sure don't want it to be on the line and we're going against the Colts and all of a sudden, Tannehill, something happens and he has to come out and he can't play the rest of the game. It's just like, ooh, man, that's crazy.
I'm looking at Logan Woodside because we were talking about, okay, how much has he actually played? He's played 30 offensive snaps in 2 years. Best I can tell, 13 of those were kneel downs because he has 13 rushes, meaning he took it and stepped back 2 yards and, knelt down. 13 of those. So some would have been handoffs.
No, just look at his passing stats. You could just cut to the chase.
1 for 3.
Right. So that's all we know.
And the one completion was on special teams.
As well as Lucas.
Yes, can hand off.
Turn around and hand off, especially if you hand it off to the king. I mean, man, that's not that hard.
His one pass completion was on a special teams play.
So none.
So he's 0 for 2 on offense passing.
So we don't have any sample size, like I said before. So we shall see. But, man, I hope we never see him. But, hey, back up. Like, would you bring in – see, for me, I'm hoping Baker Mayfield, and everybody thinks I'm crazy, not to come here to start. I hope he gets cut and then say, hey, man, sit behind, Tannehill. And if there's an emergency, continue to let your left shoulder heal.
Right.
Learn some things from him and continue to grow. And then if you get an opportunity, maybe that happens. If you don't, man, no harm, no foul. Now, I'm not paying a lot of money for him,
right?
To be honest. But at this point in time, I think he just wants an opportunity to say, hey, I want to sit and learn. If it gets to that point where they have to cut him, then now where's his options? Now, he may still choose like a Seattle where he feels like he can battle for the job, which will be smart on his end. But you just don't know where the opportunities are at. And, if you're looking at Tannehill's contract, if he plays like he did last year, there's an opportunity that he may not be back after this season.
I mean, look at Tannehill. Now, he got traded when he came here. But he came here, he wasn't the starter. It was Marcus Mariota. And look what happened.
He sat there patiently and waited his turn.
Yep.
What was it, 2 years?
No, he started, he played the half of the 6th game and started every game from there.
That first year he was here?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that quick. Is that true, Lucas?
Yeah, they went to Denver. And
I remember Denver, the game, but I'm saying that was the first year we had.
First year.
Oh, man.
Yep. Maybe that was the 5th game. He started 10 games that year. He started 10 games in year 1.
And instantly, he was better.
No, that would have been the 6 games. He played half the game, then started the other 10. That was it. Yeah.
Instantly, and people were like, oh, well, the game's at hand. Now, what he looked better.
Yeah.
And for, maybe Marcus was playing injured. We don't know that. We don't know if he was or wasn't, but he still didn't look good. He didn't look as good as Tannehill in that one game. I said, I could build on that. And I've said before in training camp, initially when we brought him here, that Tannehill's arm was a bigger arm. It was. That thing was like a rocket launch. Now, how accurate it is and all that is a whole nother story, but it comes off his hand different than
I'd go to training camp every day and come back and, talking about big plays, I'd say, well, all the big plays today came from Tannehill. He threw one 40 yards to this guy, and he threw one 35 yards to this guy, and then he hit a long – it was all Tannehill. He was hitting all the long passes. Looked, like you said, it looked completely different. The deep ball from him.
Mm-hmm. He had a bigger arm.
John in the Borough has been patiently waiting on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline to weigh in on some of this. John, how are you doing today? Thanks for calling.
I'm doing all right, fellas. Hope you guys are doing well.
Well, yeah, man.
Great.
We can't take a quarterback in the first round. All right, now I've watched Desmond Ridder for the last 4 years because I'm a Memphis fan, and so we play Cincinnati every year. He's a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's not. He's not worth a first-round quarterback. This class reminds me of the 2002 quarterback class with such illustrious names as David Carr and Joey Harrington and Patrick Ramsey. Those were literally the first-round quarterbacks taken. This is not the class to take a quarterback. You take the best available wide receiver in the first, you take an offensive lineman in the second, and then you take Calvin Austin from Memphis in the third, and you're off. And then Tannehill has no excuse.
Yeah, well, we don't have a second-round pick.
That's right. I forgot about that part.
Mm-hmm. But I do like your thought process because I'm kind of right there
up
with
until
you.
Then. Thank you for the call.
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you. I want to win now, so I can't. That's my thought process. But you also have to plan for the future, and I don't know where that starts for them at the quarterback position. Do they go through the draft? Do they do it? Wait till next year and live through another. I mean, that means he's locked in after this year to another year, or do they get stuck where they're drafting a quarterback in the first round next year? Regardless, doesn't matter what pick they are.
What if you really liked Ridder, but you just didn't want to? You just couldn't do it. And let's say you at 26. They take, I don't know, the guard from Boston College or just somebody. And let's say second round starts and Ridder is still there. You're not trading up for a first rounder. At that point, you're trading up to a second rounder. If they really like him, trade up in the second round for a quarterback? No, if not him, so Matt Corral, somebody else. Not to the first, but if you're like, nah, we can't do it.
GM Blaine Bishop?
GM Blaine Bishop.
Yeah, but
yes.
I would do it for second round.
GM Blaine Bishop would do it. Trade up in the second round.
Yeah, I think I would. Mm-hmm. If I got my guy who I really wanted, whether it be offensive line or wide receiver, be receiver for me. But
right.
Offensive lineman, I think that's the route they're going to go, guard. Yeah, I would. Mm-hmm.
I just wonder what that would be worth because they don't have one. They'd have to come up from the third round. Or,
Or you can match it up with don't they have 2 6-round picks, match it up with a third and a 6 and then move? I don't know.
They got 2 4s and 2 6.
And they may, if they did that, quarterback and receiver, if you don't take a receiver first round, it would have to be that pick.
At that point, I think I'd even be okay if there was a receiver they liked in the second and they did something to get that guy.
Right. That's
because it seemed like last year they kept being like a pick or two away and then that guy would get taken because they needed it. We thought
for what we all
what we thought they wanted. Yes.
Let's clarify that. Not
how we wanted it to go. Yes.
We don't know. We weren't sitting in the draft room.
To me, the panic pick of Des Fitzpatrick though told me everything. That they traded up. And Des, if you're listening, we love you, but come on, man. That was a panic move to trade up to get him.
If it was such a great move, we wouldn't be sitting here today talking about the sacred wide receiver with 2 and 6 pick.
That's true.
They moved up to get him.
And if you look
Remember
at
that, Lucas?
Who was available and what they could have just it's I know it's 4th round and all, but ew, man. The pick they traded away, they could have used to pick Trey Smith. So could have everybody have gotten Trey Smith 5 times in the draft, but I mean, it was just a misallocation of resources. Who knows? Maybe he'll turn out to be something. He may not be on the team next year. He's barely on the team this year.
The fact that, and I'm not taking anything away from him, he's not even equal to NWI, Nick Westbrook-Akina.
Right.
And that guy's improved every season, but he's not even on the radar. And when he got in the game, by the way, he caught a seam post for a touchdown, I think.
Against Houston, I think.
Here at home.
Yeah.
When they were backs against the wall, they had to play him. He did okay. I'm not saying he was great, but, right. I mean, he went out there and performed. So you go, okay, let's try to see some more of this. Let's give him a little bit of time here or there throughout the game. I don't even know how much he dressed after that.
And they went right back to your man, NWI. I mean, he was the guy they threw to in the playoffs.
No, it wasn't no we. It was he threw.
Yes, he
threw. His name started with a T.
He threw to NWI on the last play of the playoff game that they got to run on offense. He threw to NWI. As we talked about, Julio wasn't on the field. I went back and looked at – I watched that again the other day just to make sure that I wasn't speaking out of turn. He was not on the field. It was Chester, NWI, and AJ. That's the 3 wideouts on that play.
So, Lucas, you tell me, when it is balls to the wall and you got to make a play, last year, what 3 receivers are on the field for you?
A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, and Nick Westbrook-Akina.
So there was one guy that wasn't on the field, and I believe that's why he is not here today.
Yeah, he is no longer with us. And he may still be in the city of Nashville, but he is going to be playing his football somewhere else. Doug Matthews, 1969 Southeastern Conference rushing leader, former longtime assistant coach. Yes, he was.
Andy.
He was. That's a real thing. Doug Matthews joins us next right here on Blaine and Mickey.
Yeah, the same size.
Waiting to make you 104.5 The Zone. Waiting on Coach Doug Matthews. Should be checking in any minute here. We'll talk to him and get the latest on spring practice, recruiting, everything else that's going on. Saw a tweet yesterday. Vols are hosting 2024, the 2024 number one quarterback in the class, Jaden Davis. They're hosting him this weekend. And this was right after they just signed Nico.
Not signed, but got a commitment.
Commitment from Nico Iamaleava. Did I say that right?
Very close.
Okay.
Iamaleava.
Dang it. Iamaleava.
Mm-hmm. I'll let you learn until he signs on the dotted line. Will I even learn it?
Let's just say Nico.
Nico.
That's fair.
Well, and they got freshman quarterback in the mix right now, trying to win the backup job.
From Naptown.
That's just a thing, man. They
don't stop, does it? Can't relax.
And I know nobody can relax, but you think about that.
It's like sitting on a tack.
If you're Nico Iamaleava, is that
Got
right?
it.
Nico Iamaleava. You're out in California. I mean, you're getting your tweets from your Vol fans and everything, and you're like, yeah, man, yeah. I'm about to go to Tennessee and get this thing. Wait a second. What? Who's there this weekend? Oh, the 2024 number one. Oh, okay. Man, the college coaching thing, and Coach Matthews, hopefully we can get him soon, and he did it, that grind. I can remember being in a locker room after a loss, and if you're new to Nashville, new to this show, I worked at a college, and I can remember being in a locker room after a loss, and dude's upset. They're there to win.
Yeah, I worked at a college too, so I was upset too at halftime.
Well, I mean, you were playing in the games. I was just walking in, but I can remember being in the locker room and standing next to sports information director and the coach like, this, guys, here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow we got stretch, we got this. This and people being genuinely upset, and that dude turning and walking out the doors of the locker room and into the little area where the recruits should wait, and in the time it took to that door open, dude, that frown would turn upside down, and that dude would be like, "What's going on, fellas?" to the recruits. I mean, before the doors had shut behind him. But that's what you got to do that though. And I thought, how in the world could?
They may not. Yeah, that's why I'm not coach, because I might have been throwing some trash cans or something in the locker room.
Or we would go on the road somewhere and play our Tuesday or Thursday night games, and we would leave, South Alabama. We'd leave Mobile or Troy, Alabama, or one of these places off the beaten path, and I'd be like, "Hey, why? Where are the assistants going?" They're like, "They got cars rented. They're going to go recruit." They would go to
stop.
So this is Thursday night, let's say. So and by the time you finish a college game on TV on Thursday night on ESPN 12 or wherever we were playing, guys, and by the time you get everybody packed up, loaded, we're talking midnight. We're sitting on the tarmac of some other little town, wherever we're trying to leave from. Or we have to drive to a bigger town where there's an actual airport, because maybe there's not one big enough to fly out of in a Sunbelt city. So maybe it's 12:20, 12:30. Maybe it's later. All the assistants are like, "All right, see y'all back on campus." So they would go drive to wherever they were going to start the next day, stay in some, flea bag motel in some crappy little town in the middle of nowhere, go to high schools on Friday, go to a game on Friday night,
Well, that doesn't happen anymore now. They got all this, video they can watch now.
Ooh. Well, I mean, they can watch some video, but it's still. I mean, it is such a grind at any level. Yeah. That's why I never gripe about what anybody makes. Because if you live and coach long enough to get to where you make the generational money, you have grinded you have done things that most people just aren't willing to do. They're just not willing to do it. And that doesn't matter what job it is. I mean, I was talking to somebody, would you talk to my son? He wants to work in radio. Would you talk to him? I talk to anybody. Yes, yep. Happy to talk to your son. Yep. It's a guy that I hadn't seen in 12 years. Haven't heard from him. Oh, my son wants to get into radio. Yep.
Everybody wants to do radio, right?
Good to hear from you. Yep. Good to hear from you. What? So I'm talking to the kid, and I said, you got anything? Have you done anything? And, I work in my school radio or whatever. He'd done some stuff. I was pretty impressed, and we were talking, and I said, look, here's the thing, man. There are plenty of people who are talented enough to do this. They just won't live through what it takes to get here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I work. You do, yeah.
It's the same for coaching. It's the same for now. Some people have genetic gifts. Shaq was born to be the size of Shaq, but
Man, I wish I was that tall.
But for most people, it's, are you willing to, because I told him a story. I said, there were people at Arkansas State where I went who were much more talented than me. I said, but it got hard. They took a job making no money at Froggy Super Country in the middle of nowhere somewhere as a DJ, and they made no money. And then somebody was like, hey, do you want to come and sell, cell phones at Verizon? And they were like, what does that pay? Pay twice as much. Absolutely, I'll take that job. Well, that person was better than me. I was dumb enough to take the crappy jobs that didn't pay anything and just keep banging away. So all these coaches, and again, hopefully we'll catch up with Doug Matthews, but just that grind.
Doug texted said he stood us up.
And maybe he did stand us up. Usually he doesn't, though. This is interesting for Doug. Maybe he's there on the welcoming committee for this this quarterback, Jaden Davis. Well, we bragged on him, too, for winning the SEC rushing title in 1969.
We're going to take it back, man. We're going to take it back.
Vols at the pro day yesterday.
They had some walk-on, too. It worked out, too.
Yeah.
I was like, who is that? And then they was like, oh, yeah, he's a walk-on. Not to say he had him, but he didn't. I was assuming that he would be playing. I mean, like, did he play?
You thinking of Donovan Slates, the linebacker?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I'd never heard his name mentioned once. I don't know that he ever got a meaningful snap.
Well, he deserves his opportunity. He can go do the work and have fun and enjoy it. But they got to see some film.
Y'all got any film of Slates? Nope.
I mean,
but
he could be a workout guru.
Here's practice cut-ups.
Hey, I can tell you this, though. There's some guys that could do these drills and run the 40, and you be like, well, what number was he? And you go, oh, whoa, he never really played. And why was he injured?
No.
Oh, well, because that shows you these tests aren't the end-all, be-all to an actual player. And that's why I always get so fascinated especially with the running, because that's just like something that's like, woo. 4.3 is 4. I'm sorry, that guy is a blazer. He go, well, does that translate? Did we see it on the field? Like, does he run 4.3 in the actual game? How many times does he run away from people? Because there's not a lot of people on this football field in college just running 4.3, especially 4.31, 4.32. What? Now, you can get a guy that's 4.4 and then take him and train him to be a 4.3 in a 2 or 3 month window, by the way, too. So it doesn't always translate over to being a great player. A lot of people have tried it. Some have worked, some have not.
Why don't you and me start what's called the Cleats and Common Sense Combine, where you run your 40 in cleats, same ones that you wear for a game. Hey, what cleats you wear in a game, bro? I wear these. Wear them. You're going to run your 40 in them. Run your 40.
I think a lot of them do, though, don't they? No, they run the spikes. They're wearing spikes.
Yeah, they're running like in whatever the fastest.
I ran in track shoes. I was trying to cheat every way I could.
Like, that's not cheating. That's smart. So we're going to have the cleats and common sense.
It didn't work.
Which one of those drills actually does tell the big – and it may be different for different positions, right? Like 3-cone drill. When people see that, they're like, what does that even mean? Well, it tells how explosive you are.
Well, explosive as well as change of direction.
Yeah.
I want to see that. And one thing that's really big, and it can kind of go across one of the parameters for me that goes across all positions, probably besides quarterback, but still, that it even works here, is I want to know what you get in your first 10 yards. Mm-hmm. I really do. And to me, that tells me how explosive you are, what's your getaway, what's your get off. Getaway means running back, quarterback. You don't have to be the fleetest of foot. We go watch Tom Brady. I mean, he ran a 5.5, some crazy number, right?
Yeah.
But his first 10 might have been pretty decent, and you go, okay, well, he can maneuver in the pocket and get out of things, and we're not asking him to run down the field and be Lamar Jackson.
Right.
So those are the ones that I actually look at. Now, everything else is a caveat to, your production, and then you want to go back and watch guys and double take just to see they measure up to the size and weight that they put on the list of what they are. And then when you get to the combine, and everything at the combine is for you to fail, really. And when I say that, I'm talking about you're going to be shorter, you're going to be, less weight, you're not going to be as fast. So that's why it was really uncommon this year to see all these fast 40s. It was really remarkable. It was just like, wow, man, there's some guys out here now, man, that's running, whew, they all Deion Sanders at this point. I mean, there was a couple guys who ran what he ran, and when he ran, he just ran out the door and left. Just imagine that. So, yeah, so hey, man, he deserves a shot as a walk-on, but having fun with it, and I appreciate that. But man, whew.
I've been to a
He
lot of.
might get into somebody's camp, though. I would be shocked, though. I would not be shocked, Lucas, if that guy got to camp. I would not be if he did well.
I have been to pro days, literally at Arkansas State, where there were 5 teams there, whatever, 5, 6, 7, whatever, depending on if we had Demario Davis, who might draw a couple extra people, or on a year where we didn't have somebody like him. And walk-ons did pro day. You know, we had a safety who was my size, who was an okay player.
I never heard of that. So you said that this is a commonplace.
Yep.
I never heard of that.
They would let any senior
if you're
do
a senior.
pro day.
Right, because you deserve that right.
And some of those
stuck
dudes,
it out for 4 years.
Right. And like some of these dudes is like a 211-pound defensive lineman, and it's like, I got a job lined up, with All-State. I'm good. But some of those guys would be like, I'm going to go do it. What
do I have to lose?
What if something crazy happened? We had a defensive back who'd been a 3-year starter that I asked him afterwards, that had anyone talked to you about anything? He said no. But he ran like a 4.39.
Mm-hmm.
And he wound up going to camp with the Packers and played 3 years in the NFL.
See?
But he said no one had ever talked to me.
But he was not a walk-on.
He was not a walk-on.
He was a 3-year starter, but nobody talked to him.
But we had like scrappers.
He had 3 years of film, though, Mickey.
Then they watched the film.
Right.
But he said, no one watched my film until I ran 4.39 at pro day. Then everybody's like, oh, hey, can we get some film on this guy?
Mm-hmm.
And then they watched the film. I'm like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
He was undersized. He was 6'1", 186. And he played safety. He's mostly a special teamer. But that dude lasted 3 years. 3 years in the NFL because he ran a fast pro day 40.
Special team demon.
Oh, he was. That dude, he was one of those cats like, I ain't going to be on the team unless I tackle whoever's got the ball or hit everything or punt wedge or whatever it takes. I'm going to go do it. But, I remember walk-ons, part-time guys. Like, guy started 5 games his senior year. That dude was out there. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, man, what if I get out there and do something crazy? What if they like what they see? I mean, I got no beef with anybody. Go do it, And like you said, some of those dudes are just freak athletes. Maybe they weren't the greatest football player. What if they go out there and throw down some amazing 40 time? Mm-hmm. Then what if it's some explosive dude? He goes out there and 3 cone drills it like,
right. Or jump out the gym on his vertical.
Jump out the gym on his vertical.
Whoa. I think we could work with this. Some.
Hey, you want to come to rookie minicamp?
Mm-hmm.
Invite
we'll check you out. Yeah.
They still like tools.
They love the tools. They say, hey, we can work with this.
Isn't that funny, though? Because you always talk about this. If you're a first-round draft pick, you may not even have you've talked about this a lot. You may not have the most production, but you're the biggest, fastest, baddest dude that you just like a freak.
Yeah.
Then a lot of other people get drafted on, okay, well, this guy was the 3-year starter, like David Long. This guy was a player of the year, but he's a little undersized. Meanwhile, some guy who doesn't have anywhere near the career of David Long in college, this dude's a freak. He's going first round.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time you get to the undrafted guys, some of those guys are like, this dude's a total freak. Let's just see if he can play. Mm-hmm. He played 3 games at defensive end. Let's see if this dude could play tight end for us. Mm-hmm. Then you get back into, let's just bring him to camp because he's a freak. Mm-hmm. Man, I wish I could have been a freak. It's not freakish in any way.
Yeah. Well, I think some people may have said that. In a different manner, though.
Yes.
Not in the athletic manner, man.
But just
imagine. Back
imagine,
in your music days.
Just imagine, though, being so, freakishly athletic that some guy would be like, come to an NFL training camp, which is the home of freaks. Everybody there can do things that regular humans can't. Yeah, man. We know you didn't play any, but this is just, you're an athletic freak. Come on down.
Yeah, I was going to clarify that because anybody turned on the radio and just heard you say freak as many times you said it, we were talking about freakish athletes. It's not just some freakinique.
Not like Lucas on the weekend. All right, Doug Matthews has just gone AWOL. Blake in Florida, he'll fill in for Doug Matthews. He wanted to check in with Blaine and Mickey on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. What's going on, Blake?
Man, it is good to hear y'all's voice again. Look, I'm from Nashville. And I loved y'all's show before I moved out down here, man. And
I appreciate
last
that.
time me and you talked, we had our first Triple Crown in horse racing, and I was the guy that called in. I was like, you know what? It's the first time I've ever watched a horse race, and then we go watching the Triple Crown, and it was the last horse race I watched. I finished on top of that.
Yeah, you finished on top. That was too long ago, man. Don't wait so long to call.
Man, like you said, man, it's getting into radio. It's not all roses. It's not something that you just walk into. It's a whole lot of hustle. Put your head down and get at it.
Well, it's that way with anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got an insurance agency. You got to get some no's, or you got to, yard care business. Well, you got to go and win some people's contract over because they already got somebody who mows. I mean, it doesn't matter what. You just got to put in the work in the beginning.
IT.
Anything.
Mm-hmm.
See, there was when I got in with the station, I didn't quite realize what my boss was saying. The guy that owns it, he was like, "Man, we can't keep any help in the building. We're always having to buy in people's shows. You know, it'd be nice to have some in-house talent." But man, who would not want to be on the radio? Man, I can't pay people to want to put in the effort. It's insane, man. It wasn't something I quite expected, but look, man, you hit it right on the head. A lot of people ain't willing to put in the time.
It's not, Blake, thank you for the phone call, man. Don't be a stranger. Yeah. It's not like people don't have the talent. This is like a combination of letters, but it spells idiot. Idiot Garage says in the Zone TV chat, Blaine, you beat me to it. I'm an IT guy. You have to start at the bottom and work your way up.
Mm-hmm. Any way you can get through the door.
Well, and then here's the thing. Like our guy Lucas started out doing promotions at the station, right? Doing promotions at the station.
Is that what you did, Lucas?
Yeah.
Yeah, I came on November 2019 on the promotions team.
But did you do it only because you thought you would be able to get to where you wanted to go?
Yeah, but I was willing to do whatever it was.
Right.
You got to be willing to do whatever current role you're in.
And you came from like Froggy Super Country, right?
I was the sports director over at WDKN in Dixon. So shout out to the folks in Dixon County.
Hey, you were right down the street from those donuts that we like.
Oh, yeah, Dixon Donuts. Every time we go to Greystone Golf Club, they bring them out.
Oh, yeah, those things are off the charts.
Melt
but yeah,
in your mouth.
We're all going to work for Lucas one day. I mean, he started out in promotions. 100% he'll be our boss one day.
Yeah, I'll be coming here cleaning up.
Well, if we clean up like the current crew, we won't have to be very busy.
Nice. We'll go to break on that, Lucas.
Yeah, you got to drop the hammer on that, Lucas.
Yeah, man.
Blaine and Mickey, 1045 The Zone. If you see Doug Matthews, tell him we said, hey.
Yeah. Hey, Doug. What's going on?
We're looking for that rascal.
Yeah, all-time leading rusher in Vanderbilt history. No, just 1 year.
Well, he was for 1 year. Led to SEC.
It's probably still Ralph Webb, right?
Runaway Ralph.
Oh, yeah, breaking news right here, Mickey.
Bobby Wagner agrees to terms with the Rams. I saw Peter Burns tweet, I want the Rams accountant to do my taxes. Because they're just signing everybody. Bobby Wagner agrees to terms with the Rams, 5 years, $50 million, worth up to 65 with incentives.
Ooh, dang. So
8-time Pro Bowler.
He's only 31.
He's 8-time Pro Bowler.
So I'd love to see the first 3 years of that deal because that's probably about what he'll get out of it. But yeah, this guy's still productive. He's gonna walk into the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
So this goes on long enough. You're starting to think like, okay, he's going to get like a 1 year, 2 year. No, 5 years.
I thought he was going to get like a 3-year deal. 5 year, 50.
65 with incentives.
So he's going to be making $10 million. Yeah. Man, where's our man Rashaan Evans? Where did he ever end up anywhere?
Still making visits.
He visited the Falcons. If I'm Rashaan Evans, don't you? 2019 was his best year.
He already knows the defense.
Yes, and Dean Pease, remember he had like 2.5 sacks. I think he had 111 tackles.
But they might have offered him a 1 year, $5 million. Hey, no can do.
Boy, I mean, I know you want to make all the money you can make, but Dean Pease knows better than anybody.
Drew Rosenhaus is his agent.
Yeah, Drew's like, can't do it. You got to wait till you get more. Boy, the Dean Pease offer though, if they made one, and we don't know. But he did visit the Falcons. But 2019 was the best. After 2019, if somebody was like, hey, man, Blaine, I got a crystal ball. Evans, he won't be on the team in 2 years. Which you would have been like, you crazy.
Well, I'm a crystal ball myself and say.
Look at your own crystal balls.
Yeah, and they would have told me that Rashaan Evans was going to be a Pro Bowler the next year that you're talking about. And I just knew it was going to happen. I'm not even lying, man. He had finished the season after like the last 4 or 5 games, and I was like, ooh, he was shooting gaps, making tackle for losses, making hits at the goal line. I was like, oh, this guy's the real deal, man. He's finally coming to his own. And all of a sudden, you had the COVID year, and then last year, he did not look like the same player. And I don't know what happened. I'm always connected, and the player is still the player, but you don't know where they are at mentally and how you can tweak an athlete. They changed and got a new linebackers coach, Haslett.
Yep.
That's the only thing I got. I don't know if that's the issue. Eventually, it goes back to the player. He's the guy on the field. But all of a sudden, he just didn't look the same. It was clear. I was like, man, he's hesitant. He acted like he didn't know what he was doing. He was second-guessing himself on his reads. I'm watching him like, what happened? He was playing, as I said the other day, freely before, and all of a sudden, he was not. So I want to say it was him, but I'm just looking at the changes around him, and that was really it. Well, in the D.C., but.
Guys, he's only visited Atlanta and Jacksonville.
That dude was inactive against the Bengals in his last game.
I couldn't believe it.
Inactive.
I was stunned because the game before that, Jayon Brown was, and then the next game they switched to him.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, because Cunningham was on the team, and I was like, well, he's resting. Yeah. Remember, because I said I would be happy. Like, there would have been an uproar for me. Like, walking around the facility, there would have been no smiles, no jokes. That's how serious it would have been. Somebody's about to get blasted at practice. And I'm not talking about no one play. It will be every single freaking play. Sorry, y'all better strap it up. I don't care what day it is, a time of the season. I'm not happy. The coach is going to see it. The administration is going to see it. I'm not happy, and I'm about to start blasting some people. That just not going to sit well with me. When I'm the starter, and all of a sudden I'm not dressing.
Yeah.
No. No, it did not work like that. And that's the difference between success and not. The DNA just says, hey, and you ain't got to be over there just, being a problem. When you go on the football field, you are a problem. That's all within the lines. So I would not have been a happy camper. Jayon Brown or him, when they would have not been, and I've been a starter? What?
Now they're both gone.
First round pick. They didn't pick up that dude's option. Like, it wasn't even wait and see. He played 4 years.
I remember Drew was here at the camp before the season.
I remember.
And thought he was going to get him a new contract, really. and start negotiating it. I'm standing next to him. I'm listening to him talking. I'm like, whoa, dang, he's going to get a new contract.
Do the Bears have a need?
He was out there.
The Bears have a need at inside linebacker.
They signed everybody else who left here.
It's the home for wayward Titans right now.
Blossing game. Darrington Evans?
Yeah, the Bears, it's called the Chicago Titans.
Well, there were Chicago Cardinals at once upon a time. The Cardinals were in Chicago.
Hey.
The Titans were not. But add Dane Cruikshank to that list because he signed with the Bears today.
Yeah. And maybe what I was speaking on is maybe the reason why they are not the starters. They weren't the starters anymore.
The fact that they didn't go out and I'm going to hit everything until I get
What?
Yeah.
Man.
You're just talking about Jayyon and Rashaan.
Tomorrow.
And Rashaan, when they drafted Rashaan, I remember us talking about it, and you're like, no, this dude, just look at him.
Yeah, well, that doesn't mean he has all the pieces.
It does not.
It takes more than just physical ability. We all know this. And one telling tape, though, to this whole situation, at least on his side, not on his side, but to him, is he didn't have a green dot in his head and his helmet.
Oh, you talking about when they stuck Will Compton out there and put the dot on him instead of Rashaan?
That means they didn't trust him making the calls. So maybe you say that's a little bit of chink in his armor, that they didn't want him to be the one making the calls. They want him just to go play.
Wasn't that when you noticed, though? Was it when Compton came out and played the one like a few plays in a game?
That was 2 years ago, yeah. Yeah, I was just like, whoa. No, that when it was the Compton, it was more about how was he playing in front of David Long?
Oh, that was it. Who
Yeah.
was it that played the handful of plays, though, and he got the dot? It was David Long, maybe. He got the dot. Maybe that was it instead of Rashaan.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
I
Sorry,
was like,
Compton.
whoa, that's weird. He wasn't even starting. Yeah, so those little things tell you what the coaches think. And they know they're trying to win now.
Yeah. That's all that matters. They're just trying to win.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever means win is what they're going to do. We tried to win today. Doug Matthews, we'll try to track him down.
He's trying to lose.
He's trying to lose, not showing up for us. We got Buck Rising tomorrow. We got Call Your Shot. Never know what else we'll come up with.
Always something. But at least everybody's safe.
Yes, sir.
Sun is trying to come out.
Woo!
And we all know tomorrow is Friday.
Oh,
but in the meantime, in between time.
As always,
peace.